everyone, it's Sandra Gwines with The Rich Mompreneur. Welcome to the show. Tonight we have Alegra Loewenstein, and she is going to be teaching us about healthy eating and nutrition and how to incorporate all that into our crazy mompreneur, juggling family and business lifestyle. So if you're like me and you're busy and you're already trying to figure out how to just manage all the things that go into running a business and managing your family, you already know how hard it is to then sit down and plan your meals and figure out how to keep your family healthy. So today I'm excited because we have Alegra here. She is a health coach, and one of the wonderful things about Alegra, which I love, is that she not only helps people one-on-one, but she also has a lot of great tools she can provide people with to help them do it themselves. And I know some of us are like, I need resources. How can I, meal plan? How can I eat healthier? I mean, first of all, how can we even eat healthy without it taking so much time? Because every time I think about going into the store and eating healthy, I look at all the things I have to peel. That's step one. So Alegra, welcome to the show. And, so you're a mom of two boys and you run your coaching business, and you're married and you run your household, and somehow you find time to peel veggies and eat healthy. But seriously, what is the, just why do we make it so complicated? What is it that makes it so complicated for us? And how can we simplify this eating healthy lifestyle?
Great question, Sandra. My first tip just for you is to stop peeling the vegetables.
Oh, okay. I won't peel them.
Because it will save time. I mean, really, you can stop peeling them. And I don't know if you know, but the peels are really a source of nutrition in most fruits and vegetables. The peels, everything with color has a lot of nutrition. So if you're peeling off like the skins of cucumbers, you're losing actual nutrition too, and losing time.
I'm messing up.
More importantly, losing time. So the struggle is real. It's absolutely real. And I totally honor that and understand that. And I live that too. So the real thing that I've learned as a mom is that you really do have to simplify. Everything has to be so simple or it's not going to get done. And so I really have a focus on ingredients. And a lot of the cooking that I do and a lot of the coaching for moms specifically that I do is to focus on ingredients. So if you make 3 ingredients like brown rice, salmon, and asparagus, right? This is sort of like a quintessential healthy meal. And yet you can cook extras of it. And then you're also meal prepped for other meals in the next few days as the week goes on. You can throw some salmon into something else. You can eat the asparagus later. I mean, and it doesn't have to be those 3 things. And you can take this approach to anything because it should work for your family. I don't push certain ingredients, but I just push the ingredient approach.
Right. I like that concept of like picking 3 things and then kind of sticking with that and having that for different meals or different options throughout the week. Because I think for me, I'm sure a lot of our listeners too, it's kind of gives you, when I go to the store, I think of like, okay, there's 5, let's say 6 nights I need to cook meals for. I try to not cook every single day, but let's say 6 nights I need to cook meals for, and I need to think about 6 different meals for the evening. And then I need to think about lunches. And then, breakfast, I just wing it. And so breakfast is easy for us around here. But when I walk in the store, I literally feel overwhelmed because I'm like, okay, I have to go in here and I have to think about, all these meals, for the week. And it makes it so overwhelming. So, how can we simplify? I mean, how can we simplify this even from the perspective of like the shopping? Is there like tips for how to go into a store and kind of say, okay, I'm going in here and I'm like, because most of our moms are super busy. Like I know the biggest challenge is like, I'm busy, I don't have time, right? And so we think of things that are easy, like I'm gonna pop a pizza in the oven, right?
Right.
But that's not healthy. Like, to take that pizza out of a box and stick it in the oven isn't necessarily healthy. when it takes just as much time. I just made salmon for dinner, so I know it takes just as much time for me to take that salmon out, throw some salt and pepper on it, and stick it in the oven with some, a little olive oil drizzle on it, and I threw it over a bag of mixed kale crunchy salad, something. But it made me feel like, okay, this is simple, right? And I felt like I had something good to eat. But when I go to the grocery store, I seriously feel overwhelmed because I feel like I have this whole week of selections that I need to plan for.
Yeah, so two things for that. With my meal planning, my approach to meal planning, it's not really a meal plan per se, because you can focus on those ingredients, and then if you commit to even just one recipe at the beginning of the week, just one. But if you pick that recipe very strategically, knowing that you can spend a little extra time just once and chop extra veggies and cook some extra salmon or double batch the rice. And I have a list of like what I call the beginning of the week recipes. So it would be things like do-it-yourself tacos are great because you're basically prepping whatever protein you want, whether it's beans or fish or meat. You prep that, and then you do have to spend a little bit of time, and you have to spend that time to keep yourself ahead of the game, basically. But if you can commit to just that one recipe, you chop up the tomatoes, you chop up the onions, you chop up the cilantro. Yes, that one meal takes some time, and you are committing to that. But it's, maybe an hour
right
once versus other meal plans, that you have meal prep Monday or once a month cooking, but it's like half a day or a whole day. Like that's a little crazy for moms,
Yeah.
And some people it works for them, and awesome. If you find what works, you stick with it. But if that's not working, this idea of just once a week committing, as long as you pick that recipe strategically so that what's left over is ingredients, not, a little bit of leftover is okay because you can throw it in your lunch, you can have it maybe in a crunch later in the week, but you don't want to. I find that with especially young kids, you make a giant casserole, and what happens when nobody eats it? And then like every bite that mom takes is like a bitter pill during the week, right? Like, why am I the only one eating this? So by focusing on those recipes that give you prepped ingredients to the remainder of the week, you're ahead of the game already.
I love it. I love it.
I have one other thing to say too, is to not be afraid of also being strategic with your convenience meals, because it's going to happen. You're going to have the days where you have to just throw something into the oven or throw something even into the microwave. It does happen. And if you do that strategically, you can go to like a Trader Joe's or a Sprouts, something where the difference between those stores and mainstream is that they do omit certain ingredients. You can also just go to any old regular Vons or Albertsons and look at the ingredients.
Right.
Be a little more expensive. Pick some things to keep in your freezer that you're okay with. That maybe not the best. You're not like, I'm mom of the year tonight with my microwave dinner. You know what? This is better than being stuck and not knowing what to do and either spending the money on takeout and you can't really control the ingredients, or fast food. Fast food is really the worst because it really starts to shape your children's, especially palates over time. I mean, and your bodies are affected too, of course, but you get on a slippery slope. So if you always have that backup frozen meal. And hey, I mean, if you have leftovers, you can freeze them too. Some leftovers freeze. But don't be afraid to admit the truth is that we all have to have that.
Right. And I think that's one of the downfalls of mommying is like, we're like, I'm gonna do these things, and then it's like, oh, I don't get it right. You know what I mean? Like I don't do it 100% or whatever it is. I mean, and I think we feel like anything that we do, we have to have this like standard of like, by meal planning, it has to be for every single day of the week and for every, and I know from, for myself, I struggle with that because I'm the kind of person that I'm like, I tried this. I had like this little sheet where it was like, I could write like every meal I was going to make. And then I went to the grocery store with my little sheet and I did that like 3 times and it was really good. Except that during the week, then I didn't want those things. And then I was like, I felt committed to those things on the sheet. And then when I didn't do what I had said I was going to do, then I felt like, oh, such a failure. Like it's such a meal plan fail. But I love the tips that you're giving because I think that they're so doable and I think that they're so realistic, and especially for busy moms. Not just mompreneurs, but moms in general. Because if you have school age kids and they have activities and you're running here and there, sometimes it can be very difficult to really have time to prep this, you know, as we think, healthy gourmet meal, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like it can be simple. So I like those simple steps. Um, so tell us a little bit about how you became. I mean, how did you go down this path? Like, were you always healthy? Did you guys always have a healthy lifestyle, or is this something that, what brought you down this path?
Yeah, I would say yes and no. I have always been healthy. My family was pretty healthy growing up. I did some funny, I was in college. I was a vegetarian. I was a vegan.
Mm-hmm.
I did weird fasts. I say leave that stuff was all fine in college. None of us need to be doing it anymore. I've become much more moderation person. And at the same time, it was in college, even though I was doing these quote unquote healthy things.
Yeah.
I really was having I was having recurring throat infections and mystery wheezing. And I went to the doctor and they kept saying, oh, it's strep throat. And they gave me antibiotics.
Oh my
So
God.
they would test for strep throat and it would come back negative. And so I wasn't taking the antibiotics. And I said, well, it's not strep throat actually. You took the test. And so the regular doctor was no help. So I sought out it was an MD, but it was like with more welcoming of alternative practices. And he gave me some alternatives to the antibiotics, but really still no solutions as to why this was happening. And I eventually had a friend recommend acupuncture to me. And the acupuncturist that I saw really was just really a great healer overall. It wasn't really necessarily the acupuncture, but she was a listener and she was giving guidance and we were talking about nutrition. And even though I thought I was so healthy, she really called me out and said, you're eating way too much sugar. I said, no, I'm fine. I eat all this other healthy stuff. I'm vegetarian. And I kind of was a denier at first, but I trusted her. I went with it. I started with eliminating hidden sugars, which is a huge passion of mine too, because there are a lot of hidden sugars, or hidden in stuff we don't think of as sweet, and stuff that's we know is sweet, but we don't think of it as a significant source of sugar.
Right.
It is. And then there's desserts, and I never gave up desserts, and I don't think anyone needs to give up desserts. If we can get honest about our total sugar intake and honest about why we're eating the sugar. And that for me also was really a journey of like introspection, where when I got really honest and with the help of this acupuncturist, I had a sadness in my life that I really couldn't explain. My life was great. Had great friends. And it was for me kind of a spiritual journey to kind of just acknowledge that life can be lonely. We're born alone and we die alone, and all of the amazing things that fill our life in between, don't change that fact. And this woman was kind of instrumental in helping me come to those realizations. And as I worked through that, which was my journey, I still love sugar. I still love dessert. That never went away, but I can be really more honest with myself now of when do I really want it? And when am I reacting? Now, there's all kinds of things. Am I bored? Am I stressed? Am I tired? Like there are triggers we all have.
Oh yeah.
So
I really believe that.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I mean, that what you're saying is so interesting to me and fascinating because I'm not a sweets person necessarily. So, I mean, I'll eat sweets like every so often. I'm like, oh, I want something sweet, but that's not the norm. You know what I mean? It's like every so often. But now what I do love is cheese and bread and like all the other things, you know what I mean, that I know are, sugars, you know what I mean? But it's a different a different animal. You know what I mean? It's a different form.
And you know what? There's room for all of that in a diet. I mean, I just advocate real foods. And so it's twofold. It's, looking for quality and making sure you're buying the highest quality that you can.
Right.
And making sure that you're not excessively eating for all those reasons that I mentioned, the boredom, the tiredness, the anxiety, the stress, like all, the natural things that we experience in our life that we have to cope with in other ways.
We had, in one of our chats, it was funny because there was a girl in our group that said, when she had like 4 kids under 4 or something like that at one point. And like all her kids are like, she has 5 children. And she said at one point in her life, she just remembered she would open the refrigerator door and eat shredded cheese out of the bag. Like she would just stand at the refrigerator and just eat cheese out of the bag. And she was like, that was like her, I mean, she was like, that's like what comforted her, was shredded cheese out of the bag. And so it's interesting because, like you said, there's definitely a relationship between, the things we eat and what's going on, in our life. So is that something that you walk people through in your coaching? Is that something that you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. In my one-on-one coaching, that's the type of stuff that we work through, where that's more of a long-term hand holding. And with moms, honestly, it's like, that's so common because with young kids, I mean, it is, the amount of need that they have is so visceral. And sometimes it's like all we can do to like go to the refrigerator and eat that shredded cheese. Like that's our me time, and that's real, but it's not serving you in the long term.
Yeah, exactly.
to recognize it and know, that you actually have a different need that's not being filled, and then to shift the habits to get there. That can be huge.
Yeah, no, so I love that. So with your, I know you have a do-it-yourself kind of, you have ways of helping people do it themselves as far as like the meal planning and prepping and kind of adopting this lifestyle or system. So what, you had kind of mentioned to me that you have like your 4 steps that you feel like everybody needs to, if you have these 4 steps or this system in place, that it can totally change things for you. So I am all about learning this 4 step because right now I got no steps. So actually right now I'm doing the moonwalk. I'm going back and forth.
Yeah, I would love to share those. So I break it down really simple, and it's chop vegetables. That's the first step. Cook grains. That's the second step. Prep fruit. That's the third step. And then eat the food. That's the 4th step.
Eat it.
Which is a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's use the ingredients, really. I mean, you have to use all this stuff that you've prepped. And the truth is, Sandra, you can actually commit to one of those steps. And if it's the right step, if it's the step that you're not fulfilling, it will change your whole week. You can, like vegetables, that's huge. A lot of people, they're not getting the vegetables. But if you can just say, okay, when I go to the store, what are some vegetables that either I like, if your kids aren't even that reliable, or a lot of times it's what will my kids eat, and some popular ones are bell peppers, cucumbers, baby carrots. I don't know why they won't eat regular carrots, but they'll eat baby carrots. Because they're
baby
cute.
Carrots are for babies.
They're cute. Those are like 3 that I know lots of kids like. And you can just say, I'm going to buy one of these if you had 0, all of these if you're feeling a little more ambitious. And then you have to chop them up right away. That's when I say the beginning of the week, it just means right after you go to the grocery store. So I don't care what day you shop. I mean, on my meal plans, I started on a Monday because you have to pick a day, but it doesn't really matter. It's right after you go to the grocery store. And then you just chop those vegetables, chop them up. Because once they're chopped, hopefully you'll be committed to eating them. And buy some ranch dressing. I don't care. Like, it's not going to kill you. It's fine. You're eating the vegetables. That's the point. And I have tips and tricks. You can add water. You can add like easily 25% water to store-bought ranch, and You don't even notice the difference.
Mm-hmm.
It's good because then when your kids go to dip, they can't use it like a spoon. It runs off. Makes it harder for them to do that. And you can have a rule. If you dip the dip, you have to eat the vegetable. That's the rule, right? You can't just eat the ranch.
Right. You can't use it as a shovel.
And then that's it, right? And then you have veggies. You can put them into lunches. You can serve them with hotmes. For yourself, you can do like some pita and cheese and veggies and dip. You have a pretty well-balanced quick lunch. I mean, your kids will love that too. You can put them out. Like, I know a lot of people at crunch time, it's 4:30 and you're like, we just walked in, dinner's not ready. I need at least 15 minutes, if not half an hour. And the kids are freaking out and you're like, here, eat these vegetables. If you're not hungry, you can wait. If you're hungry, you can eat the vegetables. So you have this really healthy, it's like, who cares? If they ruin their dinner on cucumbers and peppers and carrots, who cares? That's like a win. Isn't it? That chalk went up in the win category, you know?
Yeah.
And then and you're using them, and you can, and then they're prepped too, so you can also cook them into another recipe later. You're ready to go for that. And that something, especially with young kids, keep the ingredients out. They don't need to cook. I'm a very big advocate for eating the same thing as a family, the same ingredients. But when they're young, oh my God, don't make an issue of it. Just, if you're eating like sauteed peppers and mushrooms, just give them the raw peppers. It doesn't matter.
Right. Like, they don't need to have it fixed the way you do.
Right. And it's no trouble if it's already all prepped, or even if that's the day you're prepping, you just leave some of the peppers out.
Yeah.
Put those on their plate. And it's like, if they're eating vegetables, you're winning. You know, you don't have to battle. It doesn't have to be like with your sauce or whatever. Give them their ranch. It doesn't matter. They're going to turn out fine.
Yeah, we make a lot of deconstructed things in my house.
That's the perfect word for it.
For my picky, or as we call her, persnickety 17-month-old, because everything's like, you know, she doesn't like textures that much. So we're working on textures.
And it's so common in touching. They don't like stuff touching. And you're like,
yeah, well, I don't know if we got to touching yet. She doesn't, I don't think she cares if it's touching. I don't think she knows yet. And I'm trying to raise her better than me, because I have been a very picky eater. It took me a very long time to be adventurous with my food. I went to boarding school, and I remember I spent the first month stressed because it was like everything was different than what I ate at home. And I was raised in a very Latino home, and everything was like rice and meat and some kind of beans, or, you know, like it was like the same thing every single day. And then I went to a place where it was like, you know, casseroles, and like it was just you know, we're gonna have a ham, and I'm like, okay. Or, you know, it's just so many different things. And my husband is very adventurous, so I'm trying to raise my daughter to be adventurous too. So I don't make her eat the way I would eat, even though I'm way more adventurous now than I have been in the past. But it's interesting because when she first started not liking foods, I felt like, oh, well, she doesn't like that. But then I realized, like, no, I have to keep introducing these foods to her and help her to acquire a taste for different things. So we just keep giving her the same things over and over again. And eventually she's like,
You're role modeling too. I mean, that's so important also. You have to make it a family affair. You have to be eating yourself.
Yeah. So, okay. So here's the big, you have this meal planning is like the focus of what you do, right? Or this meal system. But at the same time, what, like, how do you, for instance, like my husband has a hearty appetite. I'm just going to say hearty. So sometimes I feel like, okay, I can make, like, I'll make rice, I'll make, you know, veggies, I'll make a side of whatever it is. And then sometimes I feel like, okay, how do you, for me, and my daughter just picks little things, but, you know, when you have a larger size family and you're trying to eat healthy, I know a lot of people are like, let me just make a casserole, right? Or like whatever, like then we just make this thing, this dish. Everything's in this huge dish and we'll just have this forever. And so one of the things that you were talking about earlier was like, nobody wants to eat the casserole after so many days or what have you, right? Like I'm that person. I don't want to eat it after day two. I'm like, I'm done with this, whatever this is. So, what are some tips you have for kind of larger families or, if you want to kind of, do you just double up or triple up or whatever it is that you're making? Like, what is a tip for that?
Yeah, that's a great point. If casseroles work for your family, to the listeners, no, not you. You said it. You're making faces. If casseroles are working for somebody else,
Yeah.
do it. Like as long as you're paying attention to the quality, a casserole can be a fantastic thing that is throw it in the oven and go. For everyone else, I really would just still emphasize this double up batching ingredients. You save the time without being committed to eating the same thing over and over. If you're making the rice, make a huge pot of rice. Just make it huge and put it in the fridge. And and rice can become so many different meals. I'm not afraid of carbs. Carbs are not bad for you. You need carbs. But it's all about quality. And that's really the message. That's my message. And that's really the message. I read so much stuff about health. And when I look, and everyone's like this, don't eat that, don't eat the other. But when I look through it all, the real message is quality. Don't eat the crap. And there's unfortunately so much crap in our food system.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the process of, and it's the cheap ingredients of the food manufacturers, that's what they use and that's what they want to sell you. But if you're making rice, rice is rice. So cook the whole bag. I'll cook like 2 bags of noodles. My kids are still young. I don't know what I'm going to do when they're teenagers because we could eat 2 bags of noodles in like 2 days. They can consume them. But I do throw some noodles. I'll make like my own macaroni and cheese. So when I make that huge batch of noodles, I'll eat them that night. I'll make a batch of macaroni and cheese and I will put that in the freezer. And that's my I'm desperate and I just go put it in the oven. But it does take like an hour to cook because it's frozen. But
yeah,
but still, it's totally hands off. And then we'll eat noodles like for breakfast. I'll just eat them because my kids love noodles. And again, some people are like, oh, noodles, it's processed. And yes, I will eat whole wheat. And yes, there's some alternatives. But the truth is that quality foods traditionally prepared are almost always healthy. And so if you buy the Italian noodles, which are not expensive, they're 99 cents a bag at Trader Joe's. They're made in Italy. And yes, they're white flour. So I'm not going to eat them every meal for all week, but I'll eat them for a day or two. But there's something about the way that they process noodles. It's the traditional technique of making that flour dough, putting them in, drying them, and then the re-cooking them. It makes it really digestible to your body. And then I just make my kids have sauce. I put red sauce on it, so it's like tomato sauce, So then there's vegetables too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not afraid of traditional foods in any way, and you shouldn't be either. As long as you're getting the quality, just going for the quality. That's so important.
So do you think that most people overthink this whole thing? Because right now I'm like, oh, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. If I just pick a better, I think the choices are what's important as opposed to eliminating the pasta and the breads and the this and the that, but picking better choices. I feel like are we overthinking it, and is that why we don't eat healthy? Because we're well, I might as well eat this bread because all the bread is bad, or you know what I mean? Do you think people overthink the options of what's available?
I think you're onto something, but I don't think it's quite that simple because in our country, there are really bad food choices.
Oh, yeah.
The vast majority of the food choices in most grocery stores are really not going to give you optimal health, you know, and really, if you look at like square footage, I mean, there's an entire aisle of soda, you know, and people drink it. There's an aisle because people drink it, you know, just as one example, and then aisles of ice cream. And I'm not opposed to ice cream, but, you know, it's like high quality and in moderation. But I think people, it's a double-edged sword. You have to pay attention. You have to think in our country, because we're overwhelmed with like total crap for food. So you do have to pay attention, and you do have bread. I mean, there's so many bad breads. You do actually really have to read the ingredients when you're looking for bread. Or locally here in San Diego, Bread and C, which they sell at Sprouts. I don't know if they sell it at Whole Foods, but I know they sell it at Sprouts. You know, that's traditionally prepared bread. It's made from a sourdough starter. It's processed totally differently. The gluten affects you completely differently. Like, they have whole wheat. You know, a lot of it is white flour, but it's not going to hurt you because it's quality and traditionally prepared. So, you know,
I mean, we are fortunate to live in an area that has, you know, a Sprouts and a Trader Joe's and those kind of things. And when I lived in North Carolina, there was a Trader Joe's, but there wasn't anything like a Sprouts or anything like that. So we'd have to travel pretty far to get, you know, kind of good quality food. So I definitely get it.
Yeah, so at the mainstream stores, you do have to pay attention. You know, I wish you could say that you're overthinking it, but you're probably not, you know, and it's overwhelming. Like, I don't like shopping at Vons, which is my neighborhood grocery store, because I have to read all the ingredients there. And, you know, if I go to Trader Joe's, all right, they have some junkier stuff, but if you stick to the simple stuff, like if you buy bread at Trader Joe's, most of the bread at Trader Joe's is pretty good. But even then, I mean, it is complicated, unfortunately, but it's like once you find the good things, you can just stick to them. So it's not like you have to do this every time. You find your store, you go through it, and then once you know, like, this brand is quality and this brand is quality, so like that's just it. That's the bread I'm going to buy, and that's the noodles I'm going to buy, and this is the pasta sauce I'm going to buy. Like, once you figure it out, it's just a shift. You do have to put some effort in.
So do you help women that are working with you? Do you help them with like how to read the labels and how to break down the ingredients and shop and all that?
Yeah, so that's a one-on-one coaching work. With my one-on-one clients, we can do via Skype. I do most of my coaching via Skype. We can do a pantry makeover where we actually look through with the camera what's in your pantry, and it's like people are terrified of it. But I mean, look at me. I'm a mom. Like, I have the frozen stuff in my freezer too.
You go in my pantry and you'll say, "What do you eat?" Because there's something.
Yeah, there's no judgment. Like, I totally don't judge. It's like I help you find things that are not quality for your family, and I make suggestions on, like, this would be an easy swap. Like, try this other thing instead, and that's going to serve you and your family better. And I also can go to the grocery store with local clients, and go through like their grocery store, go through that grocery store and find the things and do one round of shopping. And then the next time it's easier because it's like, okay, well, this time I know that I did it all. So yeah, that's absolutely a service, because it can be overwhelming.
So we're almost at the end of the show, and I want to make sure that everyone knows where they can find you. So what is the best place for people to find out more about you?
Find out more about me. It's healthyfamilyharmony.com.
healthyfamilyharmony.com. And then before we go, what would be like the most encouraging thing you can say to a mom who's kind of like, stressed out because she's basically just winging it right now and has a terrible, it wants to be healthier, but just is overwhelmed by the whole idea or process, doesn't feel like she has enough time and definitely doesn't feel like she knows, where to start. Like, what would be, obviously hiring you, but
yes, what a good suggestion. For encouragement, I would just say, one meal, one day, 1 week, 1 month. It does not define your health. So cut yourself some slack, first of all, because nobody's perfect, and especially once they have kids. A lot of things get harder. And then as far as advice goes, I would just say stick to the highest quality that you can possibly afford and prepare it as simply as you can.
I like that. And I like even your suggestion earlier, which was like salmon, rice, asparagus. Like you can't mess that up.
It's
and
so simple, yeah.
We eat the same stuff in my house like all the time. Like it's like a taco bowl, or we're not very big meat eaters, so we're always trying to throw in some kind of veggie concoction. But yeah, so it's like a taco bowl. We have salmon, we have tilapia with some kind of veggies. So it's like pretty much the same menu here most of the time. And then I get busy, and then we eat like chips and sauce.
You know what? That's not the worst thing. It's not the worst. Salsa's totally healthy.
Basically, I get overwhelmed by my tiny tyrant, and then we eat chips and salsa because I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't have time to cook. But no, I think the tips you gave were great. I think especially for a lot of the moms that are listening and viewing this, the biggest thing that I get from the group is like, there's no time. We have one post where people posted a ton of recipes and things that they make, and not all healthy. One of them had like crumbled Ritz crackers in it. I don't even know what that was, but I'm sure that was like part of the casserole or something.
Casserole, it is delicious. I have had with the Ritz crackers, and they're really good. Maybe not a weekly staple, but once in a while.
Yeah, I'm not a casserole person, so I was like, oh, interesting. I was like, Ritz crackers? Oh, okay. But no, I think the tips that you gave were great. And one of the things that I can take away from this was the chopping. I think that was a great idea, because I feel like I buy vegetables and then they go bad sometimes because I don't like they just sit at the bottom of my refrigerator. And so actually chopping that sounds like it would be
and it doesn't take that long. It's 15 minutes and you can chop like 2 entire bell peppers and then they're ready to go.
Yeah, so I thought that was a great tip. And and just not complicating it so much, and just keeping it simple. I think like if we just keep it simple, because I'm that kind of person that I go on Pinterest, and Pinterest overwhelms me because it's like these beautiful recipes, and I don't really have time to make that every night. Like it's good every so often, but for the most part, I really just need like a hurry up and go meal. But I want it to taste good, and I want it to be healthy too. So I love the whole keep it simple thing. And then, even with what you're saying now, like I feel like, okay, if I keep it simple, if I pick 1 or 2 ingredients and then I just double up on those things and have some extras for the week, like I definitely feel like that would be a game changer for me. So
great.
I love the tips you gave. I will make sure to share your link and everything with this video so people can follow along. And you have a DIY course you mentioned, right, that has resources and tools and tips for people. And then you also have a one-on-one coaching that you offer to help people kind of guide them into this whole new lifestyle of healthiness, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Alegra, you are awesome and amazing. Thank you for having this time with me. I hope that you guys out there found this as interesting as I did, because I definitely felt like she had some awesome tips and practical, things that you can actually do. One of the exciting things also is that she's a mom, and so she gets it, and she's also running her business just like we are. So To all of us out there who are trying to, juggle and balance this whole craziness, it's always great to know and talk to other moms out there who are doing this too. So, kudos to you for running your business and doing what you do. And thank you for being on the show tonight.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.